Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. It's, when you go and see a real doctor, you sort of don't feel so good these days, don't you? I mean, after having met a doctor, you're more sad because you spend more money out on medicine. If you met somebody like Dr. Sani right in the morning, it's so refreshing, the heart and the mind, right? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sani, for sharing so much knowledge with us. It's such a pleasure to hear somebody like him, isn't it? Yes. Right. So, is it still good morning for everybody? Yes. It is? Yes. Wonderful. I'm going to be referring to a couple of my notes. It's just so, because of the limited time, I just want to include and ensure that everything that I've been asked for, I'm able to cover in here. You're all right with that? Yes. All right. So, would you all be there with me for half a minute? Yes, ma'am. Okay, everybody, stand up. Maybe I can leave the professors and the teachers there. All the students, move to your left. Move to your right. Move a step forward and sit down. Somebody told me if you're able to move your audience, they happily listen to you. Okay, jokes apart, it was more of fun just to ensure that everybody just gears up, okay? I'm going to be including a lesser theory, but I'm going to be talking more about my experiences in the industry. Everybody's experiences are very different, and I'm sure everybody on the dais has their own experience, but a lot of what has been spoken already by Dr. Sani, I have been part of a larger change at HCL, and it was so interesting to sort of see Vineet there. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit, but I must thank the college and the administrative facility here to have invited me here. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you everybody to be listening to me. How many of you know Rancho? Who is the Rancho? Raise your hands. Who's the Rancho here? Well, if you're not, the agile leadership, right? That's what you expected me to talk about, the agile leadership, right? The speed and the ease with which you're able to lead organizations, you're able to lead people, right? That's agile leadership. That's what I've been asked to put together, right? So you have to find the Rancho. Do you know of a Rancho around? If you're not the one? Well, at least we have one. More? Do you know any Rancho around in the college, in your neighborhood? Yes? Yes. Who's that? Yes? Very good. Are there more? So now you know there's so few Ranchos. What do you think Rancho had in him to be agile, to be a leader? Would somebody help me just put that together, whatever you guys say? What do you think Rancho had in him?
Passion for knowledge.
Okay, is somebody noting it down for me? Passion? Dedication? Sorry? Will to learn? Yeah? All of that is correct. What more? Sense of humor? Leadership, vision, very important. What else?
Facing the adverse situation with full confidence.
Okay, confidence.
I'm passionate, innovative.
All the jargon.
But that's what is agile leadership, isn't it? Isn't that agile leadership? So you know it all, right? It's not something that I'm going to talk very different from what you already know. It is what it is, right? And how many of you have it? Now how many of you are ranchos? Okay, let's just see, we'll build a little more by the time I finish. Okay, so keep adding more names to it. I have been asked to cover a couple of points there, and I have no presentation, so I'll just stick to my notes. To discuss current issues and challenges in agile environment, I'm assuming it's in the corporate sense of things, right? So in the organizational scenarios or the organizations that we work in, what are the current issues and challenges in agile environment? Well, I think every organization without default, intends to grow. Right? There are no organizations who choose to not grow, right? Obviously, everybody. And they all want to grow faster than their competition. Everybody wants to be ahead of times from what the competition is doing, correct? There are no no's to it, right? Every organization wants to do that. What differs these organizations? Why is it that one does better than the other? The resources are similar, the environment is similar, the goal, meaning to succeed, is almost same for everybody. What differs? What do you think differs? Yeah.
How they use the 24 hours.
Nobody works for 24 hours.
The way of doing things. How do they
The way of doing things, and the way of doing things comes from where? There's somebody who's deciding what's the vision, what's the goal, how we're going to be reaching there. A leader, right? And the speed and the ease with which this leader is able to take the organization from point A to a point B, bring about that change, makes all the difference. And that is agile leadership. Somebody who's able to think ahead of times, somebody who's able to see things ahead of everybody else is an agile leader. And that's what makes a difference. Some organizations are able to set the change parameters. Some organizations, some leaders are able to set a trend and others follow. And that's the differentiator. They choose change. They choose what would happen. How will it happen? How would the end product look like? Whereas others are forced to make that change eventually, but they have very few choices to make. Or barely any choices to make, right? They just adopt and adapt. So the agile environment or the agile leadership is about thinking ahead. Taking ahead of everybody else in that environment. If that, I'm just being slower here, just so each of us at least understand what we're going to be, what's the context about, right? Agile leadership, who's that agile leader? A leader who brings in agility, who's that? What do they do? What do they have?
out of the box?
Think out of the box.
Think ahead of
Yeah, they're able to think out of the box. They're able to bring people together. They're able to build in that collaboration. They're able to communicate effectively with people. What do they do?
Initiate the thing.
Yeah. So they have an idea, they have a vision, and they also know how to convert that idea or vision into action and be able to take from a point A to point B. Correct? Are you with me, everybody? Just to be able to set the context right. We'll come back to the rancho, okay? So this is something that we all need to understand here. where is the agility coming from? Everybody is a leader, right? So you have different designations, and in the morning you very rightly said that designations really do not make too much difference. What makes the difference is how you're able to build on that designation, what your actions are speaking, what your thought process is speaking, what are you doing about that designation, right? And similarly, an agile leader is not about a managing director or a CEO or a general manager, a vice president. It's about what you're doing about that opportunity, about that vision, how you're able to draw people from a point A to a point B with the speed and with ease. And that is agile leadership. And you do it, right? Even in the college, like you said, you have a lot of clubs and you've these classroom monitors, right? And you do that, right? What makes one monitor or one club head different from the other? Why is a club head or a class monitor more successful than the others? You see that, right? You see that. You see that around you. So there must be something that they do differently. The designation is just the same. And that's what you do in the organization as well. There are a lot of general managers, there are a lot of vice presidents, there are many people doing similar kind of work, but what makes one more successful than the other? It's in the actions. It's in the actions. Right? To be able to sort of, for an agile leader, once they have a vision, once they have a goal, and a goal, of course, that's not changing, right? Imagine you playing a football match and the goalpost keeps changing all the time. Imagine what you're playing, right? So the goal stays the same, the vision stays the same. What does this agile leader do? What do you think this person would be doing? Communicate, right? Communicate extensively with people who would matter in that process. People who would either participate in doing, participate in making it successful, or people who would be impacted by that change or by that transformation, right? So they communicate aggressively. How do they communicate? What do you think an agile leader would be doing while communicating? So it's so easy, you a head of the organization can just draw out a presentation. They usually don't do it themselves. There's a team to do that. So they put a presentation together, put in what the goals are, what we're going to do, timelines, money, resources, everything, and say, okay, get set, go. Is that an agile leader? Yes?
No.
So what do you think an agile leader does differently?
I'm taking others' opinion into consideration.
Okay, including more people in the decision making. Okay, what else?
Stimulating them to act more.
Yeah, yes,
Planning,
Into action.
okay.
planning for the
Planning, drawing out a plan, influencing people here, building hope. No, none of us wants to change, do we? We're so comfortable in our own zones. Why bring change? There's no need, right? We're so happy being in our own space, doing our own things the way that we wish to. It's so comforting. It's such a known zone. Why would somebody want to move from a point A to a point B? Let me tell you, change is something that's the most detested thing in any organization. We're so comfortable in their own zones, they don't want to. And they have their own vested interest in doing so, right? They want to be, let it be, why bring change? It's all working so beautifully for us, why should we? So what does an agile leader do? They build in hope. They build hope in people, if we move from a point A to a point B, it's going to be a better world for us. What's in it for us? What's in it for me? What's in it for the organization? When they're able to build that hope and a success story, it makes the journey much more fascinating. They're not yet there, right? But they, a leader should be able to build that hope in people. What are they going to be achieving after they've achieved a point B? How will that transformation look like? How will it be better from what it is? Hope is very, very important. When you do these events, I'm sure a lot of these events or curricular activities happen in the college. What do you think? What happens when the first day a lot of students come in to a seminar or conference room like this, and they said, okay, we're planning something like that. We're planning an annual fest. And the speaker tells you, okay, so the annual fest to us would look like this. There are going to be celebrities coming in, singing, dancing, a lot of fun, food, frolic. So you create a mental picture. There's hope. Hope of fun, hope of learning. And then you draw yourself there. So an agile leader shares decision making in the organization. Like somebody just said very rightly, include more people in the decision making, right? But a leader never delegates decision making. They seek opinions, they seek inputs, but they do not say, all right, you make the decision on my behalf, or you make the decision on my behalf. Leaders do not delegate decision making. They are the decision makers. Or if there are spots in the organization where decisions have to be made, what decision has to be made, where, who will make that decision, what are the timelines? These are central points to the leader. They don't delegate it to others. Imagine the organization going haywire if everything of this gets delegated, right? So they include as many people in the decision making, but they centralize decision making to themselves, right? Are you with me?
Yes.
How many more ranchos? Couple of more, okay? A third point that it's a vast subject, let me tell you, and as much I'm interested in talking a lot about agile leadership and change management in organizations. With limited time, I'll just try to sort of bring this together. Third thing that is very important and very rightly put into this was developing people and not employees. Right? Employees is just a way of addressing a set of people who work in the organization, but it's people, right? So it's developing people who work in the organization, right? How many of you know what's gut? You say, my gut feeling says so. Where is the gut?
Instincts.
Where is the gut? Huh?
We created through our own experience.
Other side of the ear. No, in your body.
Inside our mind.
Basically, the possible impacts what
It's here. It's here. Okay, the power source of your body is here. That's the gut. And you eat, you drink, you think. The whole body runs through that. And hence, in very layman language, we say, well, my gut feeling says so. Right? My gut feeling says so. We should hire this person, my gut feeling says so. We should fire this individual because my gut feeling says so, right? So the gut is here. It's one of your chakras in the body, right?
Yes,
And if very successful people, it is said, and strong leaders in the world have very, very active chakra. Your Manipur chakra, or your gut, as how it's referred commonly, is pretty activated. Pretty activated. And what you learn, whether in college or otherwise in life, a large part of that belief system, that value, that learning, comes from your gut, Manipur chakra. You know, so a lot of colleges or schools, I mean, my son, a 3-year-old, in his school is taught yoga. And, people ask, for that 3-year-old, he barely has a weight to lose. So it's not about losing the weight, it's about activating your chakras. So, a lot of colleges, institutes now practice yoga, right? They tell students, or they have classes for doing yoga. Why? To activate your learning centers, right? So when the organizations sort of feel that, we need to develop people, their employees, it literally means that it's that body that needs to be developed, right? Organizations on a very superfluous level do not, you may say, well, it's a classroom training, these are the training schedules or programs that happen in the organization, we all attend these training programs. Well, yes, that's obviously a medium. You obviously will translate a training program somehow. But the development is not just about a classroom training. It's an overall development. And organizations intend to invest on resources, on people, where they see returns. Right? Because an organization is run for earning revenue. I asked somebody in the morning, what is finance? The person started telling me accounting and the accounting books and how to do a balance sheet and everything. I said, oh well, finance student, you should have just said money. So when it's developing people and not employees, meaning the overall development to be able to build leaders from within the organization as opposed to hiring. A lot of time I've challenged business when they've come back and said, well, let's hire a change champion. Well, I don't understand this. How can we be hiring a change champion? There is no change champion who can come from outside and bring about a change. Somebody who doesn't understand the pulse of the organization can never ever bring about change. And change champions have to come from within the organization. Of course, they can be guides, they can be mentors, they can be consulting organizations, but they cannot be a change champion coming from outside the organization. So building those change champions from within the organizations is what organizations intend to invest on when development is spoken about now, in today's reference. Yeah? I've been given a sheet of, ma'am, time is up. So I'd rather just get fastened on this, right? Social collaboration and leadership challenges, right? Let's just, for sake of time, social collaboration in a corporate setup would mean what? Do you have a tool where everybody is on the same platform, chat or get broadcast or something like that in your college? Right? There must be, or let's just say, forget about the college part of it. Let's just say a Facebook, all right, or a Twitter or something where you have a broadcast. Let's party together today, right? Similarly, collaborating at a social level. Let me just take an example. In a corporate setup, there's a manager, there are team members. Each of the team members tentatively spend 24 hours to 48 hours writing emails to their own managers who are sitting next to them. Right? Now imagine the productivity level in the organization. And then where do these emails reside? They reside between these two people. So there's barely anything happening on those emails, right? Whereas if on a social collaboration level, if the organization implements tools, right, where say assume you have a page, technically, I'm just, look at that. You have a tool, you have a page where everybody logs in, puts in their efforts or asks questions or put their issues together, and then they can be consolidated well to action upon them. That's social collaboration in a very layman language, if I were to say, in a corporate setup, right? So social collaboration. But what is the challenge? The challenge with the leaders is not to get the tool. They have their finances, there are like zillions and zillions of such tools available in the market. They can obviously purchase any. The challenge is to bring people onto that tool. To get that buy-in in the organization to begin using those tools and make optimal utilization of those tools. That is the challenge with the leaders. Which means if they were to do that, what do they need? A lot of communication, a lot of persuasiveness to ensure that people see, and again, hope. If you begin to use this tool, you move from point A to point B, and the point B is much more better than a point A. That's a social collaboration. And that's the challenge that leaders in the organizations face. But an agile leader is able to see through these problems and able to implement such practices, bring about that organization change or culture change in the organization to ensure everybody begins to use that tool for effective, better methods in the organization. And that makes the organization agile. Yeah? Two other things. I'll cover both of them together. Third, one of those things I were asked was the employee effectiveness measurement, right? And I think most of the panel members here would agree effectiveness usually comes to mathematical calculations, right? End of it, it's about how much percentage, what rating did you get, how much weightages in the appraisal system, But effectiveness measurement for employees or people in the organization is much more than that, right? So the effectiveness measurement may change. Today you're measuring quantity, tomorrow you may be measuring quality, but it's about setting up a baseline, at least everybody is here. And then whosoever does better from here is our top performer, right? So these effectiveness measurements, and there are many different organizations adopt different ways of measuring effectiveness, and that's quite a elaborate subject to handle. One of the other things that I was asked to cover was employee engagement and retention, right? And that's quite a question that I was asked in one of the conferences. When I won the top HR 100 HR minds in India or the top HR leadership change agents in India, somebody asked me, how did you achieve that? I said, I don't know. How did I achieve that? How was it awarded to me? I didn't know. But what I know is there was a goal, and the goal was very, very tough because it didn't exist. It didn't exist. I could not read about those in the books. I couldn't have a preset example for that. That was a totally different, new situation at work that had to be achieved. And that is when I worked with Prem and Vineet at HCL. That was a total change management program that had to be handled. And when I was program managing change management during that time, and we used to sit with Prem and Vineet to sort of deliberate what do we need to do and what is the progress. I never sort of saw that a reward coming my way. It just happened. That was the end product or an appreciation that came because the achievement happened. It was never the goal. You move from a point A and a point B, the reward, recognition, all of that is part of the success story. What if you fail? You're still learning, right? You're still learning through the way. And that makes you a much more stronger, agile leader. Rewards would come, not come, that's a different story altogether. Right? Vineet, in his book, Employee First, Customer Second, talks about mirror, mirror, right? And that's a very interesting thing. And he used to do that practically with us in those conferences, in those things. So literally there were mirrors in the room. Literally. And you have to stand there instead of, this was my goal and I did achieve or I didn't achieve. And that was really an evolving practice, because then you're not telling anybody, you're telling to yourself, you're talking to yourself, you're talking to your gut. I did it, I didn't do this. So obviously I'm not going to be achieving it if I don't do this. Or I over-exceeded and I did phenomenally well, right? So developing those leaders from within the organization, rewarding them, giving them the platform for them to be better from where they were. It said, if you haven't improved in a certain period of time, you've only gone worst. Because there are many more who've moved forward from you. Right? So if you're not bettering yourself, you're only going worst. And that is an agile leader who would never ever do anything like that. 70% of you would not be or would not do what you're learning to do today. 70% of you would be doing something totally different from what you are studying today. And that happens, that happens. And where would this come from? Your instinct to be a good leader. Right? So I think I'll pause here. There's a lot of time that I have taken. So thank you everybody for patiently listening to me. I hope I've been some value add to all of you. Do I see more ranchos now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And good luck to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.